Welcome back. Can someone explain to me why teachers who don't exactly earn big bucks have to buy, in a lot of cases, school supplies for their classrooms? According to a survey by adoptaclassroom.com, 91% of all teachers buy basic supplies for students from families that can't afford it. $1 billion of supplies a year across the nation. The average teacher spending $600 of their own money. And joining us for more is Sarasota School Board member Shirley Brown and Pat Gardner, the president of the Sarasota Teachers Association. Thank you both for joining us. And I got to ask why, Shirley, you know, it may happen less than in other places in Sarasota, but still there are teachers here who are spending their own money. And I know that the school board provides resources like you're about to explain to us, but it doesn't go far enough.
Well, this isn't provided by the school district. Staples helps parents so that they don't have to go out and buy all the things and find all the sales. You can get $50 per child, and the teachers can say this is what they need. And I'm talking about the teachers need disinfectant wipes, the crayons, a kindergarten teacher, the glue sticks, the highlighters, tissues. They need these in their classrooms. And if parents were to go out and buy all these things, they can't catch all the sales and everything, because you can buy crayons on sale for 25 cents, but if you walk into a store, you might be paying $1.37 or $1.97. So they said buy the crayons at the beginning of the year when they're cheaper. But if you've got 4 kids or 3 kids, to take that $50 times 3 kids, you don't have that in your budget. And then you've got to buy the uniforms or the school clothes and the shoes. It's rough. It's difficult for parents to be able to fill this hole too. Right, and as we saw in Kate's story, and correct me with the numbers, the school department gives teachers $100 and the PTO another $100? No, there's $100 that the teachers can use for getting things from the main warehouse, and they'll use those dollars sometimes for crayons, but for the large construction papers and things like that. If you are at a school that has a PTO that raises money, they might give money to each of the teachers. When you're at a school, and our Title I schools, and I can't imagine any of the Title I schools having enough money in their PTO to give any money to the teachers at all. So it's a double whammy for the teachers at those schools, because those parents can't afford this and they don't get the money from the PTO. Pat, I don't know if the Teachers Association keeps statistics on this, but anecdotally, Elise, can you tell us about how many teachers in Sarasota wind up using their own money?
I sent something out just to my reps yesterday when you called, and I must have had 60 emails saying what they got. And most of them I remember when I taught and I bought too, but it's surprising how many shoes, clothes, and food came up all the time. So you had your regular hand sanitizer was #1 on the list, of course, and then pencils and papers and all of those things. But how many, I had, most teachers have a book corner in the lower grades. They had to buy all the books, they have to buy the furniture, they have to buy the rug for the book corner. My middle school teachers have new hanging computers and the kids sit around it. Well, there's no storage, so they're buying storage furniture, storage cabinets, they're buying that sort of thing. And most of them were saying 300, 400, 500 they've already spent so far. One teacher said, I don't want my husband to know how much money
well,
I
now
spent.
he does.
Yeah.
And what is the average teacher salary in Sarasota?
We don't know the average anymore because of all the changes that they've done. The state doesn't have it out this yet.
We are just getting started with this conversation. We're getting warmed up. We'll have more right after we check first alert weather, so stay with us. Welcome back. We live in one of the most affluent communities in the nation, yet an incredible number of public school teachers wind up paying for school supplies for their classroom out of their own wallets. Joining us for more is Sarasota School Board member Shirley Brown and Pat Gardner, president of the Sarasota Teachers Association. Pat, you have a long list there. You only got through part of it.
Well, I mean, you have your normal hand sanitizer, school supplies, printer, ink, laminator, that sort of thing, but we have a lot of furniture, books to use at home, shoes, clothes, soap, toothpaste, those sort of things. One teacher paid for a child to go to the doctor. musical instruments and music class, science supplies, because they might get a book but they don't get anything to do experiments with. Anything to do with decorating, trophies, awards. One teacher paid lunch money for, and some teachers told me when we get new teachers and they only make $44,000 a year, sometimes we have to help them because they're right out of college and they don't have any money. And you asked us, why do they do that? Because that becomes their family and they care. And when you get a child who has nothing, who might have slept in his car, might not have eaten that morning or maybe the night before, that becomes your child and you take care of them. And that's what you do.
Surely the school board is aware of this. Why isn't it able to do anything about it?
Well, you know, you talked about living in an affluent community, and we do. But a lot of that affluence is with the retired community. 53% of the children that attend school are from homes that have low incomes and are entitled to free or reduced lunches. So we've got more than one community. We've got a community, a lot of organizations come forward to help us. And you know, the PTAs will help at the schools. I'm really concerned about those Title I schools and helping them more.
Right, but I get that there are a lot of families who simply can't afford school supplies, the clothing, the food, but why is the onus on the teachers to fill in the gaps?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I guess you might ask, why do we get 16 new assistant principals and they go without school supplies? I mean, it's because that's the way it's done. And it's that thing where we don't see that invisible problem over there. But teachers see it. It's not invisible to them because little Johnny comes in the same clothes every day and he doesn't have any backpack.
I mean, this is not necessarily a new story, and it's actually happening all across the country.
Why does it become the parents or the teachers that have to buy the disinfecting wipes?
But even in high schools, I think people forget, because several years ago when things were bad in 8 and 9, we did food drives all the time, basically for the high schools, because that's where the kids won't say, I don't have any food. They're embarrassed. So that we had teachers setting up pantries all over the high schools. Well, the next year, people forget, I really helped that pantry, but then I got other things to do and they forget. When you have a lot of money and your kids are doing okay, you forget about that kid over there.
What is the conversation between the Teachers Association and the school board on this issue?
Well, there are organizations out there. I know our several churches worked for the Day of Hope to reach out to families that are on the free and reduced lunch, and they apply, and then they can go to whatever is distributing them, and they'll get a backpack. They will get certain school supplies, but of course they don't necessarily know what that teacher at that school wants, because they're going to these kids are going to different schools. So they'll give them some supplies, but I think they've also upped the ante now so that they'll give them like a $50 gift certificate to like Walmart or something to go and buy more supplies. So there are community organizations that are working, and then there's other businesses too that are having drives for school supplies.
Right, but obviously it's not covering everything. And what I guess I'm trying to ask is, and I don't know if this is a legal question or not, is who is legally responsible for making sure that every kid in the public school has the supplies that they need, the food to eat, and even the clothing to wear when the parent is unable to supply all that?
I don't think anybody's legally responsible.
Yeah, I don't think it's legally responsible. The majority of the parents want to provide. Majority of the parents want to provide the shoes, the clothes, and the supplies for the kids. And I mean, I remember that was always fun, going out and buying those supplies. I don't think we want to take that away from the families to be able to do that. What we need to do is offer the assistance to those teachers. But it's other things that teachers have in their classrooms, like you said, the carpet for the reading centers, and I'm
storage units.
Yeah, and I'm looking at more
Books.
at elementary schools, and some of the reading, the stories, and that they get. I'd like to see that we do something more, at the end of the year when teachers are moving out or retiring, that some of those things, that we could recycle those things more too.
Right. Because that seems that is an issue of almost, I dare say, a capital expense. That is furniture for the classroom. I mean, I would assume would be the school department's responsibility.
We try to provide those things, and oftentimes what happens is things are recycled amongst the different teachers in the classrooms. But if a teacher wants a certain thing in their classroom and there isn't one available, they'll buy them. And I've bought carpets for my granddaughter, my daughter's room.
I'm sure we all remember that cartoon or picture with the caption that I will paraphrase, that it will be a great day when the Air Force has to hold a bake sale to buy a bomber, but our schools get all the supplies that they need. I think anybody could understand what the school district here and everywhere went through during the economic downturn, but now that has recovered, why is this still a problem?
You can say that it's recovered, but we have not increased the base student allocation from what it was in 2006 if you add the cost of inflation to what we are getting per student now. And you know, they've rolled back the, it gets kind of complicated, but they've rolled back the millage rate. Basically reduced property taxes for schools across the state of Florida, $500 million for this school year, $500 million for last school year, so that, you know, homeowners and businesses will have to pay less on their taxes for school. So we haven't all recovered, and yes, we did get some more money for schools, but a lot of that went to, you know, new teachers for the new students. But
so in other words, they're not funding us any better than they did 10 years ago.
Yeah, we haven't recovered. The school districts haven't recovered to the same extent. We haven't kept up with inflation, and we were behind then. We're still one of the poorest funding states for funding our schools. We're down there in the bottom 10.
And that is a responsibility primarily of the state legislature.
Yes, but not a priority. They'll tell you it is, but it's not.
We had a lot of debate about the new school law that went into effect, the money that's going to charter schools. But what kind of conversations have you had with our local legislative delegation about changing the equation here, which is leading to this situation?
We had our meeting with our lobbyist today, coming up with our legislative plan, and understanding where they're at now. I mean, we have legislators that they didn't call us public schools, they called us government schools, versus, you know, the charter schools are run by other people, and then you know, then they've got the private schools that they get the vouchers, but they called public schools government schools. Well, now they're calling them failing factories, and I'm like, what is that? I mean, they have no respect. Some of them have no respect for public schools. Hopefully we can reach out to our delegation and let them understand, point out how some of the things that they can do that will help all of our schools.
Has our local delegation been receptive in the past?
Our local delegation doesn't sit on the education committees or the appropriation committee. Nancy Dieter was a wonderful advocate for public schools and stood up there and fought for us, understood the issues. But our delegation right now, they don't sit on the education committees.
They weren't behind in the back room when they made the law. They had 2 days to read it and vote on it.
That's true.
So they don't really have any say anyway.
And it was, you vote for this or you're
you
in the
won't get
basement.
anything passed, yes.
It wasn't our delegation that made those decisions.
Yeah.
All right, we have to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have final thoughts. Teachers do so much for our children. They are role models. They spend 40 hours a week with them buying school supplies for our children. The students our guest joining us right now for final thoughts. And Pat, the question is there a breaking point for teachers in terms of their ability to buy the necessities for the classroom and their ability to pay for it on their own?
Well, I think if you make $44,000 a year and you have to pay rent in Sarasota, there certainly is a breaking point. Will they continue to do it? Yeah, they'll always do it. They're never going to stop doing that. You may find you don't have very many teachers anymore, which is what I'm seeing. It's harder and harder to fill the slots. But I think they'll always do it, no matter what. They did it in the one-room schoolhouse, and they're going to do it now, too. If there's a need, they're going to try to do the best they can. They might ask parents. They might ask Miss Brown on the school board to help, but they're going to help somewhere.
Shirley, what is the conversation among members of the school board about this issue? Because, I mean, obviously, everybody knows about it.
Well, school supplies isn't so much, we're talking about, a charter school that got a D. How are we going to turn that around? And I don't know if, in fact, there's that much more that the school district should be, because maybe we ought to be providing crayons for all classrooms. But I know, too, that there was a time when we kind of do that, and at the end of the year, there'd be all these supplies left over, that sometimes would get thrown out. And I'm like, wait a minute, you don't want that either. I don't think we're anywhere near that now. And I do think that we do need some of that personal responsibility and let those kids have that joy of picking out their stuff every year. We just have to find the balance, and we need to be able to reach out to those Title I schools to make sure that they have what they need. And you know what? It isn't an issue just the first day of school. When they come back from the break at Christmas, when all the crayons are broken and when they need new stuff and replacements. I think that's some of the things that, a lot of the people in the community can do. We need their time. That's what teachers would like. Teachers would like a volunteer to come in and help get some of those things together, especially in the elementary school.
So Pat, finally, what would teachers want to see happen?
Well, I think for people that are out there and are saying, gee, what could I do? And I saw this during 2008-9 when kids weren't even eating at home and people were out of work. I carried in cases just in my neighborhood alone. I put something out in my neighborhood and I was getting cases dropped off on my front porch of food. And I think if anybody's out there, go to your local school and say, do you need supplies? High school, do you need food in the pantry? Do you need backpacks? What do you need in this school? And then maybe go in your neighborhood and collect it and see what you can do. But keep going, because it just doesn't end in October.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. The violent weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia, started with a white supremacist rally. In times of crisis, the American people look to their president for answers. President Trump addressed the nation on Saturday, but failed to call out white supremacists by name. He did yesterday, but many thought that was 48 hours too late. He did it again today and threw gasoline on the fire by saying there were fine people in Charlottesville on both sides. So what do you have to say? Barry starts our comments off by saying, totally ridiculous, all this hate in America against our great president. John adds, he should be just as vocal about the hate groups, whether white or black, or as he was about Islamic terrorists. Michael says he dropped the ball by not condemning the alt-right neo-Nazis and KKK. He showed the people who he really is. He showed us all exactly who Donald Trump is. And from Louisa, everything should have stayed segregated like that. Nobody gets in each other's way. Really, Louisa? Really? Well, if you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions. They're on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Thanks to our guests for being here tonight, Sarasota School Board member Shirley Brown and Pat Gardner, the president of the Sarasota Teachers Association.